Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Yeah, you don't want the Secret Service. That's not what you want. Listen, it was by the grace of God that Donald Trump survived. It was not with the help of the Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheatle, who obviously has been under fire, won't resign so far, won't resign. Everyone's pissed at her. It's not just the American people, but, now the National Fraternal Order of Police, because she is going on television blaming local law enforcement for, of course, the botched Trump security detail, all of this at this rally over the weekend. I want to play some of Kimberly Cheatle in this interview with ABC News. Watch.
There was local police in the area that were responsible for the outer perimeter of the building. I'm being told that the shooter was actually identified as a potential person of suspicion.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, I guess at least we can be thankful that apparently she's so stupid that she thought that it would be wise to point that out. Like, that's how incapable we were. We identified him. I mean, he still managed to get a shot off. He still managed to get on the roof. He still managed to go around unscathed. But yeah, we identified him. Hey, we did our job. We identified him. In fact, she spent so much time blame shifting and, attempting to cover her own ass, poorly, I might say, that the ABC News anchor was finally just had to force her to take some sort of responsibility here. Watch.
Who is most responsible for this happening?
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
The president and Homeland Security Secretary said today they had 100% confidence in you, but there are some members of Congress calling on you to resign.
I appreciate the Secretary's comments, and we're going to continue to be transparent and communicate with people.
You plan to stay on? Absolutely.
I do plan to stay on.
Just like a woman. Look, apparently she's too thick to get it. I mean, you just heard her say, yes, the buck stops with me. I take responsibility. It was unacceptable. However, I'm going to continue serving. No. That's not the way this works. She's too thick to understand that. So we're about to explain it to her and some of the others who think that maybe it's a good idea for her to be in charge of guarding the most important people in the entire world. All right. I need you. Send this to your local Congress people. Okay. Share this show with your friends. Tweet a link of this to the White House, to Joe Biden's account, to the POTUS account. Just do everything you can with what I'm about to arm you with to push to get Kim Cheatle fired. Let's go over some of these reasons. Okay. Number one, Cheatle is obviously an underqualified nepotistic DEI hire. You guys might not know this, but a Democrat insider actually told the New York Post that Jill Biden's chief advisor, Anthony Bernal, was actually the one who pushed for her to get the director job. Now, within it, it says, look, it gets really gross, but he has no national security or law enforcement experience, this guy, Anthony Bernal. Why is he trying to talk about matters in which he has no experience? I have no idea. But what's even crazier is Bernal was Jill's chief of staff when she was second lady. Like, that's the B team. Why are you taking instructions? Why are you taking expertise from a guy who not only does not have any law enforcement experience, but also isn't good enough at his job to get the A team? Now, Kim Cheatle was part of Vice President Joe Biden's security detail, but it's not like she was the head of the detail. In fact, she had a string of administrative jobs, including the Assistant Director of Protective Operations, where she, drum roll please, managed the budget. Managed the budget. Well, yes, I'm sure that the person who handles the finances would know how to just make sure that your people don't die. All right. So obviously she is already off the bat. She's a glorified secretary. Okay. Who knew a guy who was connected with someone else. She's from the Obama days JV squad with no prior security experience. And they put her in charge of security for our nation's leaders and top figures. I would say she needs to be fired. She was highly underqualified from the get-go. Now, if you were not convinced already, Joe, Here's another reason. She was defeated by a sloped roof. By her own admission, by the way. Again, she's too dumb to say these things out loud in these national interviews. Anyone with half a brain would understand the need for transparency, of course, but there are just certain things that you just don't say in the manner that she says them, seemingly daily now, all right? In this same interview, Kimberly Cheatle was like, well, listen, I didn't put Secret Service people on top of that roof, which was obviously a security threat that had already been established before the rally because it was a sloped roof. That could have been dangerous. Watch.
The shooter climbing up seemingly unimpeded, about 400 feet from the stage, with a direct line of sight on the former president.
Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
Oh, well, first of all, it's a dumb excuse off the bat because we saw the counter snipers behind Donald Trump who were on sloped roofs. And these were not they appeared to be an even steeper pitch of roof that they were already on than the roof that the shooter ended up being on. And, it's just I hear her talking about safety. It was a safety concern. This is the problem with having women at the head of Secret Service. They're concerned with their Secret Service members' safety when the entire point of Secret Service is for them to put themselves in harm's way in order to save whoever it is that they're guarding. So maybe less concerned with their safety on a sloped roof, which, by the way, I did see a video of a cow that made it up to a sloped roof. Safe enough for the cow, not safe enough for Secret Service, okay? But also, I'm just wondering, did we just catch her in a lie? Because the Secret Service, again, was made aware of the threat that the building posed days before the rally. And they, I don't know, intentionally or not, you decide, didn't include it in the perimeter. How do you explain that? The buck stops with you, Kim. Can I call you Kim? Kim, the buck stops with you. Why was that not included in the perimeter? It's inexcusable. Now, I'm wondering if she just can't keep up with any of her lies because according to the New York Post, counter snipers were stationed inside the building. So, which doesn't do you much good when you need height is very much an advantage when you're dealing with a sniper situation, when you're dealing with any sort of combat, any sort of fire. It doesn't do you any good to have the counter snipers down inside the freaking building, Kim. So was the roof a problem because it was sloped? Or was the roof a problem because it was outside the perimeter? I can't, because you're saying both things at once. And I mean, it seems like it should only be one thing. It can't be both, right? If it was outside the perimeter, why were counter snipers in the building? Doesn't make much sense, Kim. I wonder how that, okay, well, she's a liar. Fire her, okay? On top of that, let me give you, what are we on? Reason number, 3, I believe, okay? Her perimeter, in and of itself, I just mentioned it, it was weak, okay? Not only did they not include things that they were supposed to include, like a freaking building 130 yards away, but 3 hours before the shooting, reports are that Thomas Crooks actually attempted to pass through the metal detector at a security checkpoint to get into the rally. Now, guys, this is how crazy this gets. He was carrying a rangefinder. So as you would expect, the metal detector went off. But why wasn't he apprehended after carrying a rangefinder into a Trump rally? Like, what else are you going to need a rangefinder to? I'm sorry, was he planning on taking out some golf clubs and hitting a few golf balls around in the middle of a rally? Like, why in the hell would you need a rangefinder when you walk into a Trump rally? And why haven't we heard what conversation took place when he went through the metal detector and set it off and had a rangefinder and was, I guess, turned away? By the way, part of the Secret Service security detail actually spotted him looking at their position, at the countersniper's position through the rangefinder 2 minutes before the shot. I don't know, probably a good reason to apprehend someone. I mean, I keep hearing that Secret Service is like, Secret Service is the best of the best. Secret Service is like the top security in the entire world. It seems to me like that's reason enough to apprehend someone. But no, he was allowed to keep going. I'd say that's another reason in and of itself. See, all of these reasons that I'm giving you are by themselves isolated reasons to fire this woman. Put them all together, and it is just completely either evil or incompetency. And the problem is with this administration, you just never know. You're like, probably both. So let's go to reason number 4. Donald Trump was allowed to take the stage. Why? Why? Law enforcement, we now know, saw this guy 3 hours prior. They knew he had a rangefinder. They knew they knew there was a suspicious person to the extent that they took a picture of him an hour before the shooting. An hour before this takes place, they saw this guy multiple times doing really weird things enough that they thought to take a picture of him. Why in the world was Donald Trump, a former president and presidential candidate for the United States of America, allowed to take the stage? Why is Donald Trump allowed to stay on the stage when countersnipers obviously see someone on the roof? That's probably a good time to err on the side of caution. And yet, all of these decisions were still made. By the way, law enforcement got a second photo of Crooks crawling on the ground less than an hour before the shooting. And I feel like, some of this stuff is almost laughable, but it would be a much different tune, a much different story had Donald Trump not glanced in just the right direction through God's divine intervention. I mean, the thought of hearing all of these things, all of these total failures while grieving the loss of a former president, I think would be just insurmountable. But in case you're not convinced yet, which if you have 2 brain cells to rub together, you would have been convinced at the first reason. Here's another one. Cheatle supposedly beefed up security before the rally, but still failed to protect Donald Trump. It's like you guys have one job. You have one job. Protect this man at all costs. That's literally the entire point of the job, okay? 4 days after the shooting, we find out, United States security officials revealed they were aware of an Iranian assassination plot against Donald Trump, which they say prompted, quote, heightened security for his rally. Oh, that's heightened security? Well, I don't think we want to see what is regular security, what's not heightened security. But by the way, it's a lie that they even increased security, according to Susan Crabtree of Clear Politics, who tweeted out, "My sources in the Secret Service community tell me the agency was relying too heavily on local law enforcement and even temps, not regular agents or officers assigned to Trump's detail because the regular detail was overworked." I'm told that not even a handful of the agents were regularly assigned to Trump. Special agent in charge Curran was one of the only, if not the only, regular members of Trump's permanent detail. Seems like a pretty big deal to have people who know what they're doing. And I have to ask, I feel like when you are the person who's supposed to be protected, you should probably know if you have temps for the day. Did they tell Donald Trump, we've got a temp? What is the vetting process for these temps? That's an important point that I would like to know if I'm ever being guarded by Secret Service. I'd like to know when the JV squad is in, and I'd like to know when the big boys are in. Seems like kind of a big deal, a big difference, a big detail to mention. And by the way, if you weren't disgusted enough, instead of prioritizing, hey, how do we make sure that the people that we are protecting don't die or get shot at? No, instead she's prioritizing, of course, She's a woman. What else is she going to be prioritizing? DEI. Just 8 months after she became Secret Service director, which she was already underqualified for, she told CBS News, I'm very conscious of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we're developing and giving opportunities for everybody in our workforce, and particularly women. So under Cheatle, the Secret Service priorities led to, let me get this straight, Donald Trump being protected by women in ponytails who can't holster weapons. Where is it? Can't feel it. I don't know. You can't even holster your weapon properly. Don't trust you to guard Donald Trump. Shorties who can't even cover a 6'3" man. Oh, but wait. She held her hand up. Unless she's Iron Man, I don't think that bullet is getting stopped by your hand. She's prioritizing, all of these things that are leading to inept agents who ignored warnings from the public about the shooter. The guy's on the roof. The guy's on the roof. Yeah. We'll get to it later. Inept agents who couldn't find a giant frickin' ladder behind the building, both before and during the shooting, I guess, because if I'm scanning the perimeter, I'm seeing a giant ladder on a building. I'm thinking to myself, we should probably guard this ladder. Nope, didn't happen. They were too busy inside the building, in air condition probably. So look, share this with your friends. Send this to your local, whoever your Congress people are. Tweet this directly to Joe Biden. We need to get this woman out. And honestly, I'll end with this. It is in Joe Biden's best interest. If this was sheer incompetency, which I don't believe it is, I believe there's more to it. That's my personal opinion. But if it is, we're supposed to believe this is just sheer incompetency, Joe Biden's life is at risk. Kamala Harris's life is at risk. Joe Biden's son, crackhead Hunter, his life is at risk. Okay? All of these people's lives are at risk because you have completely incompetent agents. How come? It stems from the top. It was all her. Get her fired, please. All right, we got to take a quick break. I want to bring in the panel after this, and I want to ask them, I want to get their thoughts on all of this madness, what we're hearing. Every detail that comes out is just more and more disgusting that this was allowed to happen in the manner that it did. But first, we want to thank our sponsor, Birch Gold. So look, if you weren't following the news, a massive hit to the U.S. dollar just came in June when Saudi Arabia did not renew its 50-year petrodollar deal with the U.S. And for those of you who don't know this, since 1974, Saudi Arabia has sold oil solely in U.S. dollars. So that was kind of a big deal, kind of a big economic disturbance in our global dominance. And now they want other options other than the U.S. dollar. So I'm just saying, if there's less demand for the dollar, what happens to the dollar? I think that you understand the consequences of that. And it's reasons like this and others that Americans turn to Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA into physical gold. I do business personally with Birch Gold. They have helped my family tremendously. They've made it very, very easy, very simple. Everything was explained very, very well. And I'm just saying, if you have a 401k or IRA that's just sitting there collecting dust and consequently also getting devalued by the day, text the word Sarah to 989898. They're going to send you a free information kit. It's no obligation on gold and what, the ins and the outs of the conversion. So text the word Sarah. It costs you nothing. There's no obligation. Text the word Sarah for that kit to 989898. Welcome to the show, Jason Buttrell, chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program, along with MAGA legend John Doyle.
Cool.
ACV contributor also, I guess I'll mention that, host of Heck Off Commie. And I'm so glad that both of you guys are on today. Not to discredit you being on today, John, but Jason, you are former military and intelligence. So just to set the stage, you do have great expertise in security.
All right.
I'll say that.
And I worked for a company that was probably the nation's, maybe even the world's leading executive protection company. And I've actually worked alongside Secret Service on multiple different presidential events. My client showed up at the same event. So I was there for the advance. I saw how they did it. I mean, there are standard protocols for doing this. And it's very easy to ask questions on, was this normal? And this was not normal. Say that.
Literally no aspect of it, though. I mean, I was just saying this before you guys came in, every day that comes out that we get more details, it's like, how is it possible that literally none of this makes sense?
Yeah, there are so many questions. So many questions on this. I kind of boiled it down to 3 major questions. One was, did the Secret Service do their advance properly, as they normally do? Did they set up the security perimeter how they normally do it? Did they identify firing positions as they normally would? The second question was, they'll contract the outer layers of the perimeter for these to local law enforcement. Did the Secret Service properly secure those known firing positions or suspected firing positions with local law enforcement? Were they guarding it and denying access? And then beyond that, and this is probably the scarier one, did the shooter have help? So A, B, and C, 1, 2, 3, whatever. My mind typically goes to the what ifs. I try to fight that off and throw away the tinfoil hat.
Oh, that's why we love you.
But I mean, it's so hard. Like every time I try not to, I hear, like at the end of, the JFK movie, Oliver Stone, where he's like, if you weren't on board with thinking it was a conspiracy, when you hear Kevin Costner laying out the this is what happened, the shooter's ready, he takes a shot, you're like, okay, fine, it was a conspiracy.
Right.
Now, after all these other details start to come out, I'm like, hold me back, because nothing's sounding right here.
Well, especially because, I mean, even when and we can talk about each of the failures, but aside from that, it's like, wait a second, you guys couldn't get into his phone and you were already saying that he acted alone. How could you possibly know that already? We still have questions about, we were talking about this off air, the DNA. Like they said that they identified him from DNA, but they still have not told us how they had his DNA previously. Like you can't just run DNA and be like, oh, it says that it's Tom Crooks. Like you need matching DNA to know that that's the person. So where did that come from?
Then after they had that, I guess they said all clear, and they were pressure washing the surface down on top of it, which I've never had a real job, but I have been to a lot of Trump rallies. And so I think I do have a sort of frame of reference for how those tend to go. And it's not what we saw.
Well, I mean, I've been to events with Donald Trump. That security is like
Secret Service do not mess around.
No, to the extent that like I'm annoyed because I'm like, I'm one of the good guys. Leave me alone. Like, just let me in.
And the lies that we're hearing from the Secret Service, their explanations, like one of the first ones was, oh, that was outside the perimeter.
Right.
Bullcrap.
Right.
That does not exist. There is no outside the perimeter. So basically, when you're thinking about threats like sniper threats, your perimeter is however far the threat may be. The water tower, how far was that?
Right.
That suddenly becomes in your perimeter. That building, definitely in the perimeter. If it was 3 miles away, which that's about the record for the longest sniper kill from a Canadian Special Forces guy, then 3 miles is your perimeter. So that is bullcrap. The other one is, the slopey roof. What? Like, that was my second question. Were they guarding that building? They were inside the building.
Inside the building, which means it wasn't outside the perimeter, right? So which one is it? It cannot be both at once.
And now Dan Bongino is saying that his sources are telling him that there was supposed to be an observation post. There were supposed to be counter snipers on top of the building. Why weren't they there?
Right.
Was it because the building was slopey, or were they just hot? And negligent, decided to go inside because it was just easier that way? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how, and a lot of the additional information is coming from the snipers that were inside the building. Like, they were observed watching this guy approach. Like, oh, what's this guy? He
has a rangefinder?
That was like the second or third trip back. And then they snap a picture of him. Now, and then I think after they did that, it says they radioed to their command post. But then I think this is about the same time. Have you guys seen that video where they kind of sync up the video of the people going, oh, officer, look. 2 minutes goes by. 2 minutes. And this is after they already radioed over to their command post. What the hell's going on at that point?
I mean, we need answers, obviously.
We need answers. I know they're briefing senators right now, but they're even sounding shady. Mayorkas already is stonewalling them on getting Cheatle to testify. Why the hell would you do that unless you have something to hide?
Well, especially when she has no problem going out and doing ABC News interviews. Like, well, if she can go out and talk to ABC News, I'm pretty sure she can come testify in front of Congress, don't you think?
That is a woman terrified of losing her job at this point. Why else do that?
I just don't understand why you would hold on to that job. I mean, just take one for the team, you know? Like, I'm sure they could promise you some cushy gig somewhere else, but like, if you resign, you'd think that most of this goes away. I mean, obviously, we still want answers, but like the anger is like, okay, well, she resigned. What else do you want us to do? She resigned. We solved the problem. I mean, they could at least do that. And instead, she's just making it worse by just not going away quietly.
Sometimes I think that they like doing things like that just to remind you who's really in charge, because if she resigns, that sort of implies that something went wrong. I mean, oh, we really messed this one up. I guess I should resign. But if everything went as it was supposed to, then, I mean, she really doesn't need to resign. And I think the really interesting question is, can we imagine a scenario where you could get within a mile? And obviously we don't endorse this, but imagine a scenario where you get within a mile of Joe Biden with a rifle on foot. I could not conceive of that ever happening.
No.
Because, I mean, anyone who's been around the Secret Service, whether at rallies, I remember we were at the Rosa Parks funeral in Detroit in 2006 doing work on the church. We showed up the night before and we were escorted by the Secret Service, and they had dogs like up in the catwalks. We weren't allowed to ask any questions, just in and out. And that was for an enclosed environment where, you know, you don't even have anybody high profile there yet, but that's just the night before.
Right.
I mean, let alone you've got a former president in an open area. I mean, there's no explanation for this that is charitable.
Well, I mean, here's just going back to the 2 minutes, let's say, that you're talking about, Jason, that somebody synced up. You have a building that if you did any sort of lap around the building that you have already identified is a security threat, if you've done any sort of lap, what we're told is that that ladder was attached to the building. So you would see that there was a ladder on the building. So you're telling me that you knew that there was a ladder on the building and you still didn't bother to guard it, even after you had seen a suspicious person come around 3 times holding a rangefinder. Like, you cannot convince me that that is just incompetency. You can't. I don't believe it.
Incompetence can be used maliciously, I think. Like, they were repeatedly denying the Trump team's requests for additional security. And so it provides, hypothetically, I mean, plausible deniability, where you're like, oh, things just got our wires crossed because they didn't have the resources and manpower that they needed. So you can kind of maliciously create that incompetence, whether it's because of DEI, you have like a, 30% female requirement for your agents or something. Different things like that, which kind of clean your hands off, because it's like, well, look, clearly there were errors, but the people who made the decisions to present those externalities are acting maliciously. I mean, they have to be.
Should women be in the Secret Service?
No. Yes. I made the most
the
coolest and most sexist graph you've ever seen. Because like if you imagine like a bell curve of like qualification for the job, if men are like here and women are like here, and the best of the best, like top 10%, there's no scenario where women are going to be over there. Maybe 1 in 10,000 or something, but certainly not 30%.
I agree.
Okay, well, yeah, when you're talking...
Explain yourself, Jason.
Well, when you're talking about percentages, I completely agree, because when you're looking at it as in should women be in certain quantities, you know, that's where it's wrong, because then you're just looking at numbers and you're not looking at qualifications. I've done this job with female agents that could probably outlift 80% of men. Which is just insane. There are a certain select top percentage that can do the job. If you can do the job, I've got no problem at all.
Well, and so just to say that a little bit succinctly, there should be one set of requirements, right? Absolutely. Strength requirements, whatever physical fitness requirements. There should be one set of those. And whoever achieves that should be qualified. But we're not going to make a men's set and a women's set, because you're already admitting that the women don't belong there. Absolutely,
100%. In that case, and like I said, I've served with women like that could do the job. The women that were out there were the percentage of that side of the coin. Right. They were purely there because of numbers. They wanted to increase numbers. They did not want to increase capability. Melissa McCarthy should not be guarding President Trump, okay? She's the chick that's like, I saw that somebody called it a holster puzzle that she had in there, because she's trying to figure it out. Like, and then finally she just gave up, stood there awkwardly with her
gun. Yeah.
And what's hilarious, there's a new video where they pull up to the emergency room at the hospital. Yeah. That same chick is there. And she pulls her gun out and does the same thing and just stands there awkwardly with her gun in front of the... What are you doing, lady?
I've seen more proficient handling of firearms on Alec Baldwin film sets than we did with the US Secret Service.
One of the ladies cracks me up. Like, she was funny. Melissa McCarthy was funny. The other chick, she does a complete 360 as she's going like this. And then a full 360. I'm like... What are they doing?
What are you doing?
Amazing.
Yeah, it really is. By the way, none of those women were seemingly present guarding Donald Trump when he walked into the RNC.
What a difference.
So strange. All of a sudden, all these very big, tall, fit men are surrounding him. Shocker. I can't imagine why. All right, we've got to take a break, and then there's more when we come back. So obviously there's this national conversation about inflammatory rhetoric, and I want to get into that. But first, I want to remind you guys, if you guys have not yet tried Cardio Miracle, I love it. It's a supplement that you put in your water. I guess you could do juice, but why? You don't need the extra sugar. It's sourced with 55 of the finest food, plant, and herbal ingredients, the best natural flavors in the world. Cardio Miracle, it works great. It gives me a lot more energy, but it has so many of the benefits. So go check them out. It's cardiomiracle.com/unfiltered, code Sarah. That's SARA, cardiomiracle.com/Sarah, code Sarah. So this, what's inflammatory rhetoric? How culpable are Joe Biden and the rest of the left and the mainstream media? But I repeat myself in what happened. And I want to play Joe Biden talking about the inflammatory and vicious rhetoric from, MAGA Republicans in rural areas in an interview with Lester Holt yesterday. Watch.
I've never seen a circumstance where you ride through certain rural areas of the country and people have signs there, big Trump signs with middle signs saying F Biden, and a little kid standing there putting up his middle finger. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that is just inflammatory and a kind of viciousness.
Is that vicious? Is that inflammatory to say FJB? I don't know. I'm kind of wishing that I was wearing that necklace today. Seems like a good day for it. But I mean, you don't see anybody on the right calling for Joe Biden's assassination. I have not seen that at all. But I want to talk about this current controversy on social media. So Libs of TikTok, who I know we all know, Libs of TikTok, the X account, is creating this controverscy because she's exposing.
Oh my God!
I can't wait to hear your response. So she is actually just exposing people who are going online calling for Donald Trump to be dead, like calling for his assassination, or saying I wish that they had been successful, like just disgusting things, saying they want Donald Trump dead. All right, let me show you a couple of those. Amanda Brewer, who was a school counselor at Boonville Elementary, wherever that is, said she was disappointed the shooter missed. And so Libs of TikTok is finding these, or they're being sent to her, I don't know, and she's posting them. Well, this woman was forced to resign. There's another one, a Home Depot cashier, who posted on Facebook, the shooter should have been a better shot. Well, she posted this. Home Depot responded and said, "Hi, this individual's comments don't reflect the Home Depot of our values. We can confirm she no longer works at the Home Depot." There's a mayor who said, "Try harder," after the shooter missed. This was in Pennsylvania. Okay, so now there's this question where conservatives are like, this is just cancel culture, and we don't agree that cancel culture is a good thing, so we should stop this. Are you joking? Are you kidding me right now? These people want you dead. And you want a white knight for them? They wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. They hate your guts. And conservatives are so weak that they're like, we can't dox people. This is cancel culture. They wrote it in a public platform. They're doxing themselves, like they're doing it to themselves, posting something that someone said on a public platform that was disgusting. It's called actions have consequences. Sorry, not actually. I don't understand why we're even having this conversation about, is that too mean? Is that engaging in cancel culture? Is that doxing? No, it's called F around, find out. That's what it's called. It's called, like, this isn't cancel culture. You have a certain set of values and norms and ways of being civil in this society. And if you break them, you'll find out. You'll find out what happens.
That's why we were lucky. Like, this just so happened to be an instance where we could feel like we're getting like an own on them, because you've got all these people who are celebrating that somebody died because they happen to disagree with that person politically, and then lamenting that the former president wasn't killed. And so any employer, I mean, 10 years ago, if any one of us were working at Home Depot or an elementary school and there were a local news story about some guy that, you know, got murdered and we celebrated that, we would no longer be employed.
Right.
So it just so happens that this is a high profile case, but this is a standard that's existed forever. Yep. So conservatives have this like impulse to just want to lose that they're letting shine here. And it's just a misunderstanding of like how the social dynamics work and evolve. Like, the reason that when you talk to leftists, you feel like you're talking to a wall is because you are. You're not talking to a person who actually has thoughts. They don't use words the way that you use words. They use words in a very like Pavlovian sense, where they're just making noise with their mouth to get rewards, and then also to disassociate themselves from ideas which they've been programmed to believe are low status by the media. So they're like pivoting and going to all these different things, and you're like, wait, why can't you just listen? That's not what they're getting frustrated with you because you are jeopardizing their rewards and also their self-perception of being somebody who's not stupid like Republicans. So you've wasted so many years of your life probably talking to these people, trying to act like they're like actual people. And so because of that, you have to disrupt the ability for society to reward people for being libtards and to make these ideas that are so normal low status. And a way to do that is getting them fired from their jobs. And by the way, if we just went one by one like hot potato, going through examples of conservatives in the last 10 years, losing academic positions, executive positions. Forget about Home Depot. Love Home Depot, but we're talking about like big skin in the game. We'd be here until after the election. So a little dose of it, I don't think is a bad thing at all.
By the way, we're not getting them fired. They're getting themselves fired.
Yeah. True. You need to victim blame.
I mean, they're not victims. Like, they said it. You said it on a public platform. Own it.
We did not make these rules.
No.
They made these rules.
We'll play by them.
We'll play. And when they made those rules, people were getting fired for wearing frickin' MAGA hats.
Right.
People were getting fired for doing this. Literally just saying okay, but they were like, oh, that means white power. Fire them. There were kids going up for like the NFL draft that were losing draft stock because people were digging up their old tweets. Mm-hmm. Screw you, right? I have no sympathy whatsoever. There needs to be some kind of mutually assured destruction exists for a reason. Mm-hmm. I'm perfectly fine with going back to the old way, with not digging all this crap up.
Right.
But you need to be put in check first.
Yeah.
You played by those rules. You created those rules. We're playing the same game. Have fun. Just imagine if when Barack Obama was in his campaign running for president and those same posts happened, that there'd be the Secret Service knocking on their door. They would be fired immediately. Yep. They would be dragged through the mud and punished. They had been taught a lesson. The reason why these people are for so many years, they would say this, they would dig all this crap up. They played by those rules. And for so many years, they got so comfortable with it. All their friends would be like, yeah, you go. How brave of you. They'd get hearts. They'd get, claps. They would get like people, commenting on their, they had no fear. They have no fear today that they can cheer on a president getting shot. That's how unafraid they are. That cannot stand. They have to be afraid. So welcome to it.
Yeah.
Keep going, Lips of TikTok.
Things had gone differently, too, on Saturday. Today's Wednesday. By next Monday, if you walk into your workplace, you would see them there, and they would already have coffee mugs with a picture of the president's face on it getting shot. Like, they would celebrate this. It would be merchandise. They would make, and then anytime that any of us said anything on Twitter or something, they would reply laughing about it. Like, they would think it's the funniest thing ever. This is not some Zapruder tape that's 100 yards away and it's really grainy. You're talking about 4K footage of the president's head collapsing like a jack-o'-lantern on November 1st. Like, that is what they wanted to happen, and they wanted to rub it in your face forever. So, go broke. Bye.
Yeah, they're like kids that don't know right from wrong. They feel like there's no consequences for everything, and they want to be those kids forever. No, there's got to be someone that says that you cannot do this anymore, or it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And if we keep doing business as usual, how worse is this going to get?
Right.
They're the only ones that can play that way, and we have to turn the cheek every single time.
Nope.
These people that's mostly on X, it's mostly I've seen it there. Shut the hell up. Just stop. Do you want to continue losing? Do you want to continue enabling this behavior?
It's so weak. It's so weak.
I think it's the culture discussion. The culture dial? No, it is the culture war. What do you think that looks like? Just vibes like, no, we're getting you fired. It's over. We're seizing your assets.
No, it's like, stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it really is. It's despicable. Yeah, I agree. Keep going, libs of TikTok. We need more of that. And unfortunately, it seems to be just us chicks out there that are like, have more balls than, not, of course, not these men, but a lot of them out there. They're like, oh, don't be mean to someone. They want you dead. Shut up. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. So speaking of F around and find out, Senator Bob Menendez was found guilty in a federal corruption trial on all counts, including acting as a foreign agent. Now, obviously here at Blaze Media, it was no surprise to us. We've known for a long time. It's not just Menendez, but a lot of them. We actually did a docuseries about it. It was called the Blaze Originals Bought and Paid For, which you can watch, by the way, over at Blaze TV. And so he was found guilty on 16 federal charges, including bribery, which, I mean, you know, he just had hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, mortgage payments, and gold bars. It was just like a bunch of gold bars just chilling in the pockets of his jackets and his closet. Fraud, obstruction, and acting as a foreign agent in Qatar and Egypt. And he will be sentenced on October 29th. He faces decades in prison. Is he going to resign? I mean, in the midst of all of this, he already announced his campaign like for next election. So he says the jury's guilty verdict has put at risk every member of the United States Senate in terms of what they think a foreign agent would be. I agree. I think most of them are evil and corrupt and criminals and should also be behind bars. Thank you, Bob Menendez, for pointing that out.
Yeah. There you go, America. There's your consolation prize, I guess maybe be the best way to put that. I don't think that this would have happened to Bob Menendez if he hadn't have pissed maybe Nancy Pelosi off in the back room or something, because the real Congress happens in the back rooms and they all do this crap. So I'm glad that like one of them, you know, these corrupt a-holes is going to jail or whatever is going to happen to him for this, but it's systemic.
Right.
And all of this case has always pissed me off from the beginning because you know the way Washington works. You know something else happened for this even to be allowed to get to that point. Because every time something like this comes out, it's like a big spotlight on what they all do anyway. And you know because you looked into this in depth.
Yeah.
But they all do it. Joe Biden, I think, was one of the biggest perpetrators of this and probably one of the ones that pissed them off the most because he was just so blatant about it. Yeah. He was like, yeah, my family's making all this money for us, you know, whatever. Like they knew he wasn't going to go down for it. But now more people actually do know, you know, the idiots that didn't know before now know a little bit more. But they're all... I don't want to say that. Maybe there's 4 or 5 that don't do it. But the vast majority of them do this. Yeah. It's a problem that I don't really even know how they fix. I think, you know, power corrupts. DC is just evil. That's why it's in a swamp. And that's why I never want to go there. But Congress is infested with it. And I just feel like this is a consolation prize. I'd love for someone to come in and just really clean house, pull all the skeletons out of the closet and bust them all.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's a nice time to remind everyone that George Santos was expelled from Congress over ethics complaints that didn't receive the full, thorough investigation that it should have. Expelled. Will Bob Menendez be?
Yeah, you just get like these instances where you've got these like young faces and maybe they don't understand quite how it works yet and they get like pushed by the machine and then they're like, screw you, you guys do like gay cocaine orgies. And then all of a sudden their like career in politics is over, as happened to Madison Cawthorn in North Carolina when he made that comment. So it really makes you wonder, I mean, to your point, like corruption in politics, I mean, that's a tale as old as time. The real question is, what did he do to step out of line to where they were like, okay, we got to throw one of our own under the bus every now and then so that the public is like, well, you know, there was that one time, I guess the system's not that bad. It's like, what did he do to make it him? And then also, why was it done so cartoonishly? Gold bar. I mean, this is the 21st century. There's got to be like more sophisticated ways of doing that now.
Yeah, can you, I mean, like, how did he, was there like an exchange where the people just presented him with gold bars? Were they mailed directly to his house?
I didn't want to say anything insensitive about Middle Eastern culture, but that did seem very sort of, you know, like wheeling in, here are your gold bars,
exactly.
sir. And
right,
like, where do you exchange these?
It was either that or German bearer bonds. Right. They were like, let's go with the gold bars this time. The next consolation prize, just to give them, you know, a little appeasement, it'll be German bearer bonds. bomb.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Jason, I do think that like he pissed off the wrong person. But again, the left is so good at sticking together. Have you guys, and maybe I missed it, there's been a lot going on lately, but have you guys heard any calls for him to be expelled from the Senate? I haven't.
I don't think so.
From Democrats?
No, I don't think so.
He just was found guilty of being a foreign agent, and they're still like, it's fine.
Well, it's like, how far do they really want to push? Because because how far do they want to push? Because they know that they're all guilty of the same thing. But I mean, I'm just, it just baffles my mind, because the state of awareness, I think, in this country right now, and how just absolutely corrupt Washington, D.C. is, specifically Congress, I think is at an all-time high. Like, everyone knows. Yeah. The Biden family has done a lot to expose that. I mean, I just feel like more and more people know that this is just a bunch of douchebags. They're sleazeballs, the people that we send up there. Maybe they don't start off that way, but definitely give them a few months. What's his name? Eye patch seal guy. Dan Crenshaw.
Yeah.
He's one of the poster children for it. They're like, oh, wow, he's great. And all of a sudden, wait, is he a millionaire now? Like, how much is he making off of? I mean, it's such a corrupt institution. Everyone knows. They throw us a bone like this. I just feel like I'm rolling my eyes when I see it, because I'm like, okay, yeah. He's one of the many of, he's one of the hundreds that's guilty of this. Thanks for that bone.
Right.
But we know it's business as usual with they're back at the stock exchange the next day. Yeah,
which, I mean, you have to wonder if his statement was kind of meant as like a veiled threat to his fellow senators in Congress when he said, well, now all of you guys are at risk. Wink, wink.
He did say that?
Yeah, he said the jury's guilty verdict has put at risk every member of the United States Senate.
It's not a secret. Everyone knows.
I'm coming for you, baby. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. Just a reminder, you guys, if you want Kim Cheatle, I asked earlier, can I call you Kim? Can I call you Kim? I'm going to call you Kim. Kim Cheatle fired. Make sure to send the show send a link, send it to your congressman, send it to Joe Biden, post it on Twitter, share it with your friends. Because I almost said an unkind word. This lovely woman needs to go. Make sure that you are following both of these gentlemen on social media.
Can I add, just if when you send that correspondence, just don't do it from like a slopey driveway or something like that. We don't want to put you in that much danger. It's unsafe. It would be unsafe to do. Now, a cow can do it, as we saw earlier online, but you, please don't. Thank you, Jason. Safety is important. So important.